Hey guys, Scott here. I have finally played enough of the Dredge to, I think, have some final opinions on him, and then list just basically two things I would like to see change with the killer to really make him more enjoyable, probably for both sides. So for first one, let's start off with the Remnant and gaining bloodlust. So I'm sure you're aware by now, but as you're channeling your power to put a Remnant down, it keeps bloodlust. So you keep gaining bloodlust despite the fact the survivor might be beating your 50-50s over and over again. Like, they might actually be guessing when you're going to teleport, and then they might call your bluff and run through it when you're not. And so they might be making the correct plays, but you just get rewarded with bloodlust over and over again, to the point where you can get up to bloodlust 3 while still channeling your power. And I don't think it should work like that. I think if the survivor guesses right on the 50-50 that you have, you should be punished for it. Like, the killer should not get rewarded by going faster. So I think that needs to go. Make the Remnant channeling count as an offensive action. I'm not sure why it doesn't count as an offensive action. It basically is one. But that is probably the main survivor side thing I would like to see changed. Other than that, I think he just needs like one other tweak. And it has to do with Nightfall, and it has to do with teleporting to lockers. So for me, the fun part about his power is not the Remnant thing. The Remnant thing is basically, it feels like playing the artist again, except instead of throwing crows, you set yourself down, and where it seems like Hag or something like that. It's not very exciting, at least on the killer side, from all the time I've played him. So I don't want that to be incentivized. What is really fun, though, is during Nightfall, cutting people off mid-chase and teleporting to lockers really fast, popping out, cutting them off, and slapping them. That is really fun. That is by far the most fun part about the killer. That is what feels the best when you're playing him, and that's what separates him from any other killer. He's had, that unique ability to teleport across the map and instantly slap a guy if he's right near a locker. It can be a very, very satisfying thing. The problem is locked lockers completely negates this. I would say 80% of the time I try to cut somebody off during Nightfall, it ends up just making me lose distance because the locker's locked, and then I'm just fucked. And it makes it so I don't even look forward to Nightfall anymore, because I don't really want to use my power to try to cut people off, because I end up just losing distance, and it's not worth it. And the reason for this is it's just too easy to lock all the lockers in the map. For example, it takes less time for a survivor to lock 2 lockers than it takes the killer to melee and hit one of them and break one lock. And because if you have one locked locker in a set, you'll always teleport to the locked locker. You don't even have to lock both of them. You just lock one. And then once they break that one, then you lock the other one. And I think the time investment is in reverse. The general rule of thumb is things that survivors do should take 4 times as much time as the killer if they're an equivalent action, because, there's 4 survivors and 1 killer. However, it takes survivors less time to lock a lock than it takes a killer to just melee it, which makes no sense. It's completely reversed. I think it should take significantly longer to lock locks. I'm not saying make it take 5 seconds or something. It should just take, 3 seconds or something like that. So it would be an actual time investment to lock the entire map. Survivors would have to be a bit more strategic. They can't just see a locker and go, oh, let me lock it. Let me do a drive-by lock. They should have to save it for when, okay, I'm working on this generator now. Now I'm going to invest time into locking this locker so he can't teleport here quickly. He can't use it mid-chase and things like that. So I think that's the main problem. The time investment makes no sense. It's actually completely backwards. It should take survivors longer to lock lockers. Alternatively, if we don't want to go that route and we want to keep lockers as quick to lock for survivors, because maybe you don't want to give them, you don't want to make survivors more bored, even though it's only a difference of like 2 seconds. There's an alternative way you can fix this and make it so when you're in Nightfall, when you teleport to a locker, you ignore the locks just for Nightfall. Now, that means the locker doesn't break, so as soon as Nightfall's over, you're back to just having, the locker's locked again. But I think that would be a better idea than just having it break all the lockers entirely, because that would be kind of unfair, because then the survivors wouldn't really have a point to locking the lockers, because then they would just all get broken whenever it turns into Nightfall. But the fact is, you only get Nightfall like twice a match, maybe 3 times if you're running add-ons, and I would like that time to be more impactful with the fun part of his power, which is the teleporting part. And I think that is just too stifled by how easy it is to lock lockers. So yeah, when you're in Nightfall, if you teleport to a locker, you ignore the lock. And as soon as Nightfall's over, you go right back to it, and then the locker's still locked again. So you'd still have to break the locker if you want to teleport normally, but during Nightfall, it would break, or it would ignore the lock. And I think that would also fix the same issue of making it feel really terrible to use his teleport during Nightfall, because again, 9 times out of 10 when you do it, it actually is just a detriment to the killer because it's so easy to have every locker locked. And yes, you can go around the map smacking every locker and having them all be broken eventually, but that's basically the same argument as just go break the boon totem. If you're doing that much not defending of your objectives and you're just whacking lockers, you're going to lose the game. So I don't think that's a valid excuse at all. I just think one of those two changes, not both of them, that would be too much. Just pick one of those things, and I think this killer would, for the most part, feel perfect. I had one more complaint, which was you couldn't see scratch marks during his nightfall, but they did fix that. So I have very few complaints left. It's just one last thing that makes him feel really bad to play when I feel like I'm getting punished for using his power in nightfall, and I don't want to feel like I'm getting punished for that. So just one of those two changes, and then that's it. I think he'd be pretty much perfectly designed, an upper mid-tier killer if he hit that. So that's it. Thanks for watching.